Hello everybody and welcome to the Wake Up Report. You may have noticed, but I haven't dropped any shows for the past couple of weeks because I have been working on a new format. I'm trying to figure out how to get the stuff out to you guys quicker. So I'm kind of leaning more on less pictures. I figure, maybe a few pictures to establish what's going on and we can get right to what's going on. So hopefully I'll have that up in the near future. And of course, whenever I can get a hold of audio or video, I'm going to use that. But I figure, less pictures might be a better idea. So Rita Wilson, I have not forgotten about your show. I'm still working on that as well. But I figured I'd just kind of take some time, stay off the news cycle, and really start to tinker around and get together a better format. So hopefully that'll be coming up in the future. But, as of now, we'll just roll with what we've got. So let's get started. It all started with this.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people.
And it eventually made its way up to this.
You know, they have a word. It sort of became old-fashioned. It's called a nationalist. And I say, really, we're not supposed to use that word. You know what I am? I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist.
And now here we are. Two presidents, a vice president, a secretary of state, one of the most respected actors in the world, a billionaire, philanthropist, and activist, and various other political figures that are in the Democratic Party. This guy tried to wipe them all out with pipe bombs, mailing things to CNN, I forgot, major news organization. Not to forget that Bill Clinton was at his home when one of these pipe bombs was mailed to his house. And shortly after that, a man walks into a Jewish synagogue, screams death to all Jews or something, and unloads into the building, murdering a bunch of people. And if you don't think that any of that has nothing to do with all of the rhetoric that this clown has been stirring up for the past couple of years, you are out of your minds as a result of Donald Trump being an absolute demagogue. And for those of you who don't know what a demagogue is, it is someone who will tell anyone anything that they want to hear if it gives them some type of an advantage. This man and his complete demagoguery, catering to the absolute underbelly of our society, brought out the absolute worst in racial hatred, in racial animosity, in racial bigotry, that it was eventually going to lead up to this. And one of his own, this guy, who, by the way, is a half Filipino and half Italian, but has been masquerading as a Native American in order to try to convince people that Native Americans are in support of Donald Trump. And if you've seen, the guy's van is just plastered with pro-Trump memorabilia. The guy's just a flat-out racist. The guy is just absolutely positively pro-Trump, and is so pro-Trump that he decided to try to take out the political heavyweights in the Democratic Party, not to be outdone by this guy, who apparently is so pissed off at Donald Trump that he decides to go and murder up a bunch of Jews in a synagogue. Now, my guess is that this has something to do probably with Donald Trump moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. But this man refuses. He absolutely refuses to take responsibility for any of this. He will not take responsibility for any of this. As a matter of fact, after the absolute slaughter at the synagogue, Donald Trump goes ahead and tweets his condolences and how horrific it is. And then, hey, how about those Dodgers and those Red Sox? Is that a game or what? I mean, this man is a joke. It doesn't matter what Donald Trump does at this point. his people are going to back him no matter what. That is the unfortunate part. Here you have a man who has had basically the government shouldn't answer to anybody. He's labeled the press the enemy of the people. Republicans are backing this stuff. There's some 50+% and almost 80% of Republicans think that Donald Trump is right and that the media is the enemy. Donald Trump is right and that the government should control what you see and what you hear. What we are looking at, ladies and gentlemen, are the makings of a fascist dictatorship. And it is really exposing the Republican Party for the traitors that they are. So we are looking at what America would potentially become if there wasn't a check and balance system in place to keep this stuff from just raging out of control. After the pipe bomb incidents, Donald Trump gets on television and he tells people that the world's watching the United States and it's time for the United States to become unified and we must act, like a unified nation because the world is watching us and yada, yada, yada.
But the bottom line is that Americans must unify, and we must show the world that we are united together in peace and love and harmony as fellow American citizens.
Less than 24 hours, he gets on Twitter and starts attacking Democrats. He goes back to attacking the American press as the enemy of the people, and all of his followers will just go along with any and everything that he says. And that is really the scary part. When you have people in his crowds, chanting, the CNN sucks and all that kind of stuff. And it really is scary that these people believe so strongly in him that they just believe anything that he tells them. And we're basically talking about 1/3 of this country. There are about 300 million people in the United States. His support base is roughly maybe 40%, something like that. So out of 3 million, you figure what, 30, 60, about 90 to 100 million people are so blindly loyal to this man to the point that they would send this country, whether they realize it or not, because a lot of them really don't realize it, they will send this country into a fascist dictatorship. And the killer part is that he is putting the screw to all of you. He doesn't care about any of you. And you're blind like that. This guy was so blindly loyal to Donald Trump that he attempted to murder almost half of the Democratic Party. And then with the guy with the shooting up the synagogue and stuff like that. Now, where I will agree with Donald Trump, because, hey, common ground demands that you find something that you can agree on. And I definitely agree with swift, immediate punishment. When you commit terrorist acts like this, and these two guys are terrorists, Donald Trump refusing to call white males terrorists is another issue too. But when they get caught doing this stuff red-handed, forget about the trials, forget about the lawyers, forget about the juries, forget about the psychologists, forget about all that stuff where years and years and years are going to go on before you decide to execute these clowns. Execute them right now. Both of them are guilty, 100% guilty. They should be executed before the week is out. I believe the terrorist guy that mowed down a bunch of people in New York, was it last summer or earlier this summer? Whenever it happened, it's almost 2 years. And I think that they have advocated that the guy get the death penalty, but he did it. And if he did it, he actually should have been gunned down right there on the spot. As far as I'm concerned, shows zero tolerance for it. But here's the problem. Donald Trump, because he doesn't want to take responsibility for anything, and he is president, why don't you come up with the legislation to punish people when they do acts like this with the death penalty? Whether you like Obamacare or not, he came up with his health care plan and he put it to work. Why don't you come up with a death penalty initiative for domestic terrorists and put it to work? He won't do it. He's going to push it off on somebody else, and if it goes wrong, he doesn't have to take the blame for it. So he will tell you anything that you want to hear, death penalty to all terrorists that commit acts like this, but he won't do anything about it. Richard Nixon, you have been officially knocked out of your spot. You are no longer the worst president of the United States. This man, hands down, is an absolute disaster. The Electoral College made the worst mistake of its life by giving their delegates to this man to the point where they pushed him over and got him into the office of President of the United States. If you're a rich guy, if you're a billionaire, if you're one of his billionaire buddies, you're making out okay. If you're like the rest of us, though, those of you that go to church if you're Jewish, those of you that work at CNN and ex-presidents and ex-other political figures, you're out on your own. This man is an absolute disaster as president of the United States, and we need to impeach this clown before he does any more damage. You better vote. Come November. This is KTM and the Wake Up Report saying think a little bit. It will do wonders for you.